How are you? How have you been? Remember, the last lecture we had was on Horus, and we noted that Horace's contributions to the world of literature was his treatise, Ars Poetica, the art of poetry. We also did say that he contributed the so-called Dulci et Utile. By using this term, he meant to say that a good work of literature, a worthy work of art, should be able to delight, but also teach the audience something of value. Today, we are looking at Longinus, Longinus, as some people call him. Like Horace, he takes a pragmatic position on good writing. Longinus states that a good work of art should be able to sublime the reader, the audience, or better still, the listener, if it is in the case of speech. Longinus created a treatise on sublimity. He is known as the father of sublimity. That is sublimity in literature. Sublimity may simply imply a work of art that consumes the reader emotionally, or a speech that captures the entire attention of the audience. Uh, his favorable commentary on a worthy work of art is sublimity, on the sublimity. The treatise he contributed is on sublimity. Probably this gives us a moment to focus on what Plato contributed. Plato contributed the Republics. That is a treatise he contributed to literary scholars. Aristotle, his pupil, contributed the Poetics. That is the name of the treatise that Aristotle contributed. Horace contributed Ars Poetica. Today, we are saying that Longinus has contributed on sublimity, in quotes, as his treatise, as a legacy that he leaves literary scholars. Now, a distinctive feature of this famous treatise is its favorable commentary on the role of emotion. Emotion, and then in bracket pathos, 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 yeah, which we will define as quality in speech or writing which arouses a feeling of pity. In the case of Aristotle, a tragic work of art, yeah, releases pity. You sympathize greatly with a character who has fallen in a tragic work of art. You sympathize or you empathize. You momentarily put yourself in their shoes and you realize, it is painful. Yeah. So it consumes you because of the kind of language that has been used. According to Longinus, the presence of noble passion is essential for achieving sublimity. An elevated and lofty style. The writer uses an aspect of style that before you realize has consumed, has won you over with admiration. Yeah. It's almost instantaneous in its art. Now, in this kind of writing, yeah, we realize that the language used rises above the ordinary. It rises above the normal use of language. Now, from Longinus' author-centered perspective, writers and orators achieve greatness not just by rhetorical techniques, but also by deep feelings a profound thought, and natural genius. He says that sublimity is the echo of a noble mind. Yeah, sublimity is the echo of a noble mind. Often the experiences of reading a great author or listening to a great speech leads us to a feeling of ecstasy or transport us with joy. Yeah, we will refer to that as ecstasis, a Latin word spelled ekstasis, ecstasis, which is distinct from the more rational effects of persuasion, which is the goal of a rhetoric. For Longinus, sublimity uplifts the spirit of the reader, filling him or her with unexpected astonishment and pride, arousing novel thoughts and suggesting more than words can convey. The author of On Sublimity cites the book of Genesis in the Bible for such stories as that of creation that yield peculiar pleasure on its own. Yeah. Like if we were to look at the book of Genesis, yeah, the myth of creation really arouses us with a lot of interest. We, for instance, see the artist's story telling us how Adam was created, and God realized that, it is not good that this creation I have made, that is so noble, should be lonely. So he goes ahead and creates Eve as an afterthought. Yeah. So that should be a companion, a woman, war, then man, a supporter. Yeah. A woman is described as support to the man. She was created in the likeness of Eve, or of Adam. Adam having been created in the likeness of God. Eve followed suit. Now, Longinus gives us 5 sources of sublimity. 1, great thoughts. 2, strong emotions. 3, certain figures of thought, of speech. 4, noble diction. And 5, dignified word arrangement. Longinus' sublimity attempts to give the effect of a literary work of art that is well written, a meritorious literary work of art, as one that fills the reader with excitement. What he gives us in quote as the affective theory of pleasure. Yeah. Even if it is a tragic work of art, and there is a character slain on stage, there's some peculiar pleasure that you derive out of that piece. Pleasure, according to Longinus, is valuable and instantaneous. His idea of the sublime is that the value of a work of art can be elevated by looking at the hearer who is listening to great speech. The example of a speech that Martin Luther King Jr. gave that we still commemorate to date. Like he talked of a dream. I have a dream. What was a dream? I have a dream that one day the US will be led by a black man. And we saw that when Obama mounted on the podium as president of the US, he fulfilled Martin Luther King's dream that one day. Now, at the time that Martin Luther King was giving us this speech, the US was at its climax when it came to racism, and the blacks, the likes of Martin Luther King, were trying to fight this uh, dragon that made the African feel a lesser man. The African was despised and was referred to as a Negro. Now, the likes of Martin Luther King fought hard and inspired millions by giving such rhetorical speeches, by dressing their kind of speech. And so he inspired the blacks to fight racism by giving them that dream. I have a dream. It was a dream. I have a dream that one day the US will be led by a black man. Yeah. So his speech sublimed his audience. It sublimed the listeners. Yeah. And inspired them on to fight racism. And out of such great speeches, racism was fought and brought underfoot, and the likes of Obama became president. His idea of the sublime is that the value of a literary work of art can be elevated by looking at the hearer. You see the hearer respond. The people who even rise up as they're listening to a great work of art. What probably spectators watching a soccer match do. Sometimes they even help the forward to kick the ball into the goal because they have been sublimed by what the forward is doing. And sometimes they even they help the goalie to hold the ball because they've been sublimed by that art of watching a great match. Now, the sublime could probably be well explained as we listen to music climaxing, and as we watch a dancer responding to the beats of the music. When that music climaxes, even the dancer's pattern of dancing changes. The style becomes more vigorous, perhaps, in response to the beats. That's exactly what a literary work of art worthy of its salt, that has sublimed the reader does. It consumes the reader, and the reader does not want to put that work of art down. You want to read it to finish because you've been sublimed by it. Now, the rhythm of the dance will change. Yeah, he likens a poet's works as having the same effects. The poet will write in such a manner that the reader is consumed by that work of art before realizing, and this is instantaneous. Yeah, he has been won over with admiration for that work of art. He does not look at the content as an artistic product. Yeah, he looks at what is recited, a piece of art. Yeah, that instantaneously consumes the listeners, the readers, the audience. They're moved by the grandeur and the passion. Yeah, the grandeur is the choice of words that come in rightly. Yeah, good works should lead readers to ecstasy, to extreme excitement because of the passions they contain. He is not merely sensational, but it is the nobility of the grandeur that consumes the reader. Yeah, these are sources of nobility. Yeah, they are sources of good works of art. And we can quote from Sophocles' Oedipus Rex and link it to Ole Rotimi's The Gods Are Not to Blame. Now, both works are very tragic. And we realize, yeah, that in Oedipus, the choice of words that the seer uses, especially when he's about to tell Oedipus the cause of the suffering of the people of Thebes. He says, "Do you want me to tell you?" And at that point in time, the audience is already aware that calamity has befallen the Thebians because Oedipus has married his blood mother. And out of that relationship, he has brought forth Antigone and the rest. Now when we get to Oedipus' Antigone, we see the opening lines where Antigone bemoans her incestuous birth because she is born out of a relationship where a son has married his blood mother. So in this particular context, yeah, Sophocles has chosen elevated language, yeah. He has used the principles of nobility and grandeur. And then when we get back to West Africa, we get Olarotimis, the gods are not to blame, in which, yeah, Olarotimi has used an adaptation of Sophocles' Oedipus, and we see the reader probably making an attempt to blame fate for the calamity that King Odewale meets. Yeah, we momentarily want to blame the seer, and you say no, we probably want to blame the gods. Yeah, King Odewale is momentarily lured into a false sense of security, only to tramp on the gods' feet and upset them, leading to his tragic fall. Whereas Oedipus is set in Greek, we realize that Olarotimis, the gods are not to blame, is set in West Africa, in Nigeria specifically. And these books momentarily sweep us up off our feet with the tragedy that embodies the work. Now, Longinus goes on to argue that literature is pleasurable, and that pleasure is derived from a great work of art. It belongs to the highest of the human faculties. Pleasure used here means elevation. The reader is elevated by the grandeur in the work. How far are we elevated by literature from the Platonic frenzy to be able to achieve sublimity? Now, according to Plato, this extreme excitement made the readers frenzical, particularly the youth. But for Longinus, it is that makes a work of art great. It should sweep you off emotionally. Yeah, you should be carried away to greater heights. We will have a 10-minute break, and when we come back, we will look at what are the intricacies of Longinus on sublimity. Thank you. Take a break. Stay tuned. I will be back.